Hello and welcome to the Marvellous History of Medicine, or the podcast. Today's episode is all about the dark tale of the first recorded time we cured scurvy, all the way back in 1536, some 200 plus years before James Lind ran his famous randomized controlled trial, which is a totally awesome story for another episode. The year is 1536. King Henry VIII has just convicted his wife Anne Boleyn of treason, adultery, and incest. For this she will be decapitated, and Henry will go on to marry Jane Seymour, who will give Henry his first and only son. Over the channel there are a group of French explorers whose fates seem more likely to follow that of Anne Boleyn than that of King Henry VIII. These French explorers, led by Jacques Cartier, have set sail from Saint-Malo in France to Canada with 110 men and a plan. They will use the kidnapped Iroquois sons of Chief Donnacona that they brought back from their previous trip to Canada to forge a passage through the Americas from Europe to Asia. However, Jacques Cartier and his 110 men have hit something of a snag in their plan. Why? Because winter has set in and their ships, the Grande Hermine, Petite Hermine, and Emerillon, are caught in advancing winter sea ice and have become locked in. The freezing temperatures that turned water to ice have turned these seafaring vessels capable of crossing the Atlantic into oversized, ill-fitting coffins. Snowdrifts half bury the decks, so the crew decant and build a campsite along the shores near the Iroquoian village of Stadacona, ruled by that same Chief Donnacona from which Jacques Cartier stole his sons to guide this expedition. Trapped in ice near the site of present-day Quebec City, Jacques Cartier's ships are going nowhere. The crews, holed up in their makeshift forts, have no access to fresh food, so they come down with a disease so gruesome that contemporary accounts reported that their mouths became stinking, their gums so rotten that all the flesh did fall off, even to the roots of the teeth, which did also almost all fall out. They had scurvy, now known to result from a deficiency of vitamin C, but as vitamins were hundreds of years from being discovered, and Surgeon James Lind's treatise on scurvy would not be published for a further 200 years, Jacques Cartier was, unsurprisingly, ill-equipped to deal with the outbreak of this disease, of which they had no comprehension. Now, during his first voyage to Stadacona in 1534, Cartier had kidnapped two young men, Dom Agaya and Taig Nogany, and he took them both back to France as proof that he had discovered a new territory. Now that they were home, the men and their community had every reason not to trust Cartier, an attitude that he wrote down and interpreted as treachery and knavery. Now, historical accounts differ as to which Iroquoian actually did it, but some say that it was Dom Agaya himself who showed Cartier how to make a stewed tea from the bark and needles of local cedar or spruce trees called anida. Now, relations were at best extremely frosty between the stranded French sailors and the local Iroquois peoples, so some of the Frenchmen wondered if this tea, this anida, were a plot to poison them, but some of them gave it a drink, and these were cured within days. After that there was such a rush for the tea, such that the sailors were said to be, they were ready to kill one another. And Cartier wrote, within 8 days all who had tasted the tree were made well. Sadly, by the time of this intervention, 25 of the 110 men had already died. So, what did Cartier do to thank the Iroquois people who had saved the majority of his men and himself from certain death from this awful disease? Well, he betrayed them in shocking fashion. Cartier repaid Dom Agaya by kidnapping him again along with 9 other people, including his dad, the Chief Donnacona. By the time of Cartier's next voyage to Canada in 1541, most of these prisoners were dead, but Cartier informed their relatives that they were living in style in France. This scurvy cure, this anida, did not gain widespread recognition, and the disease continued to claim the lives of thousands upon thousands of sailors for more than 200 years more before the British ship surgeon James Lind changed the fate of sailors by discovering, again before the knowledge of vitamins, that citrus fruits could also reverse or stave off this condition that causes the skin to peel apart like paper, lips to blister, and blood to pour from the tear ducts, and essentially everywhere else too. That story is for another episode, soon to come your way. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening to the Marvellous History of Medicine, or podcast. See you next time.